the BootDaddy, boot scooting, two-stepping, toe-tapping, heel-stopping like he's on air. Tight blue jeans and a buckle that blings with his name, BootDaddy. Cowboy boots, slip-sliding, hard-working BootDaddy. Handsome guy, little shy. There's only one BootDaddy. He's a boot scooting, two-stepping, toe-tapping, heel-stopping.
There's only one PFI, home of BootDaddy, and I'm not kidding.
This is Larry Black, and I want to share with you a new batch of storytelling celebrating family, faith, country life, and the American spirit. The show you're about to see is a special program from Larry's friends at PFI Western store, home of BootDaddy. Enjoy the real boot life, and we'll be back in time for dinner next week.
For over 45 years, PFI has been living the boot life. And we know that in every pair of boots, there's a story to tell. So kick back and enjoy the real boot life.
In Branson, Missouri lives a country music legend who's been looking for love since the 1970s. Now he tours the country, sharing his music with all of his fans. Let's learn more about Johnny Lee.
My name's Johnny Lee. Used to be Johnny Lee Ham, born in Texas City, Texas. July 3rd, 1946. I used to watch Others Inherit when I was a kid, the Ricky Nelson show. Ricky would be Ricky during the show and screw up, you know. He was a mess up. At the end of the show, he'd always sing a song and get the girls. I'm like, So Ricky Nelson to me, was my idol growing up. Well, I went to join the Marines, actually, and as a Marine guy was going to lunch. I went for the Navy guy was at the desk. So I ended up in the Navy. November 1st was my first day in the military. So got sent to Vietnam right off the bat. Starting out as a boatswain's mate. No, I was a boiler tender, starting out in the engineering department. Met a lot of good buddies in the Navy. I wouldn't want to go through it again, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I met this guy named Mickey Gilly up in Pasadena, Texas at Nestadale Club. He was over hustling pool. So I went up, introduced myself. I said, man, I know you don't remember me, but I was with you on the Larry Kane show in Galveston, Texas. I was in awe of him. Jerry Lewis's cousin, you know. Yeah, I remember you. Acted like I did a show with him. He asked me if I wanted to sing something with him. I said, sure, whatever, what the hell. And so I went up and sang a few songs. Crowd liked me, the band liked me, you know. And after I was with him for a while, about 6 months, whatever. I said, Mickey, you remember when I met you? He said, yeah, man, I remember. I said, I never seen you before in my life. He said, I didn't remember you either, but I don't want to be rude, you know. So it all worked out. Aaron Latham wrote an article in Time magazine called The Ballad of the Urban Cowboy. In 1980, the Urban Cowboy movie came out. Had a big hit song that called Love for Love. Becky Shargo was the music coordinator for the movie. Every songwriter, and it was anywhere at all, pitching songs that heard there was going to be a movie made. Man, thousands and thousands of songs come in, you know. I guess the good Lord meant for that day to come by because about the 10th song I pulled out a song called Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. Remember Bob Morrison, Patty Wallette, and Warren the Mallet. And man, I said, that's a hit song. I don't know if it's going to get to be a hit or not, but I love the song. When the movie came out, had a premiere at a big theater in Houston, Texas. Watched that movie, and man, I kept playing Looking for Love. They kept playing during the movie, you know. Wow. That night after the premiere was over, I had a big after party at Gilly's. I never forget it. That night was the night I watched my life change. Got up on stage and started playing Looking for Love. Everybody in the whole club walked forward to watch me. The song really caught on. Larry's Country Diner gives country music a shot in the arm, I think. Larry Black hit it on the head when he started that. A lot of people watch it, man. I think they get me in there for my joking around and stuff, you know. It's done a lot for me. I notice every time I do the show, the internet, a lot of stuff, a lot. Order my stuff, order my records and CDs and stuff.
I spent a lifetime looking for you. Thank you. Single bars and good time lovers, never true. Playing a fool's game, hoping to win. Telling those sweet lies and losing again. 'Cause I was looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces, searching their eyes, looking for traces of what I'm dreaming of, hoping to find a friend and a lover. I'll bless the day I discover another heart, looking for love. I was alone then, no love in sight. And I did everything I could to get me through the night, almost. Don't know where it started or where it might end. I turned to a stranger, just like a friend. 'Cause I was looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces, searching their eyes, looking for traces of what I'm dreaming of, hoping to find a friend and a lover. I'll bless the day I discover another heart. Sing it, ladies. Looking for love. Came a-knocking at my heart's door. You're everything I've been looking for. There's no more looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces, searching their eyes, looking for traces of what I'm dreaming of. Now that I found a friend and a lover, God bless the day I discovered you. Oh, you, looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces, searching their eyes, looking for traces of what I'm dreaming of. Now that I found a friend and a lover, God bless the day I discovered you. Oh, you working putting up. Take it on, dude. One more time. Working putting up.
A couple years ago, I went to the doctor. And I was having problems walking, problems playing my guitar. What the heck? Because every time I'm trying to write deep, my hands are shaking. But until I had Parkinson's disease, I just had to take it head on, I have problems walking, problems talking sometimes. See what, I take walking for granted. See people get up and walk, I said, man, I could do that. Starting out in high school and the military, getting out of the military and everything, I've been extremely lucky. Butcher took me to the White House, to NASA, to Branson, and walked down the aisle with me a couple times. I've written books. I got a book out a cookbook yet called Chef Boyardee. Hopefully they'll be taking me a whole lot more places. I love you.
I love you. We'll let you know when we're home.
All right.
Okay, come on, Sweetie.
Bye, buddy.
Yeah. Bye, Pa. Bye, Pa. Woo!
Be careful. Young people come up to me. I'll give them advice, whatever I can say. My advice to you, don't quit it, it'll never happen. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to put on shuffle boots and start walking, man. Picking up strangers.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you about the danger. Thank you. Never know what they're out to get from you. Never know what they're gonna try to do. Picking up strangers. Let me tell you about the danger. Some are just common thieves, they say. Next thing you know, one will steal your heart away. Sometimes this old life seems like a highway, just keeps rolling on and on. On that highway, you meet a lot of strangers, pass a lot of dangers on your way home. Picking up strangers, woo! Let me tell you about the dangers. Now if you don't like taking chances, then better keep moving on, my friend. Picking up strangers. Let me tell you about the dangers. Some are just common thieves, they say. Next thing you know, one will steal your heart away. That's all we got, Jim.
Yeah! Oh!
How's Buster doing?
Oh, yeah! Now they can go to Johnny Lee. At PFI, in every pair of boots we sell, there's a story to tell. Our story begins in Springfield, Missouri, with America's greatest Western store and home of BootDaddy. For over 40 years and millions of pairs of boots, tack, clothing, and more, we've been helping folks to the real boot life. Next time you're traveling the heart of this great country, pay us a visit or shop at BootDaddy.com.
There's only one PFI, home of BootDaddy, and I'm not kidding.
Les Clancy is no stranger to the real boot life, having spent almost 27 years in the United States Army. Les traded his combat boots for cowboy boots, and now he raises and trains mules in central Missouri.
Hello everybody, my name's Les Clancy. Some people may call me a mule skinner. I call myself the CEO, the developer, the guy that invented the Missouri Mule Makeover and also the Ozark Mule Days in Springfield, Missouri. My passion is the love of these long ears mules, which is the state animal for the state of Missouri, and I'm proud to represent them and talk about them. Well, as a young boy, I grew up here in St. James, and my stepdad was the farm manager for Boys Town in Missouri. It's a 1,200-acre farm that's right across the street from Merrimack Springs, and it was a home for troubled boys. And part of their growing up in life was they had to have horses and mules and chickens and dogs and cats and all the farm animals, and we worked with them. Mules is one thing that we really gravitated to, and we really wanted to learn more. So as a kid, we had them, and we started jumping mules as a kid, and I just grew up having them. A mule is a hybrid between a donkey and a horse. So you have to take a male donkey, and that's when you see the ones with the great big long ears, and that's your traditional donkey. And then you take a mare, which is a female horse, and you cross the two of them and you get a hybrid, and that's where you get the mule. If you look back at history, they always say it was the horse that won the West, which is probably correct, but it was the mule that developed it. Mule was a huge part of, bringing, this world together is what it is today. The very first jack, which is a donkey, a male donkey, was given to George Washington back from the British, and that's where our mule came from. It's not only the state animal for Missouri, but it's also the mascot for the United States Army. I ended up spending almost 27 years on active duty with the Army. I joined in December of 1989. I was hauling gas here for a local company, and I realized I needed to do something bigger with my life. And I drove every day past the recruiting office there on 10th Street in Rolla, and I thought, I need to do something a little bit different, and I never thought I'd make a career out of it. So I'll never forget, I walked into that recruiter's office, and he said, "Man, what do you like to do?" And I said, "Man, I love to hunt, and I love to fish." And he said, "Man, I've got a job for you." And I was all excited, and I said, "What's that?" And he said, "It's called infantry soldier." So I joined the infantry, and I sure got to hunt, and I sure got to do a little bit of fishing, but I did. I joined the infantry, and I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. Got to shoot all kinds of crazy guns, and I actually went to school. They call it SAM 31, Small Arms Maintenance, so I was a weapons expert. They shipped me off to Europe, and I lived in Europe. And from Europe, I deployed to Iraq. Went to Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan, and came back to Europe. Decided to stay in a little bit longer. Moved to Fort Hood, Texas. Went to an infantry battalion down there. Spent about 3 years in Texas. Thought maybe I'd get out, talked to a couple really good guys that said, "Hey, you might want to stick with this. You seem like a pretty good guy." And I thought they were just buttering me up, but they did. So I re-enlisted, and I went to West Point, New York, which was a really cool experience because, as we all know, that the mule is the mascot for the United States Army. So while stationed at West Point for 3 years, I really got to learn a lot of the history about the mule that I probably would have never ever learned unless living at West Point, New York. I left West Point, New York, and I got stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, which Fort Riley, Kansas was probably one of my favorite places ever to be stationed just because of the hunting and fishing. And then I was lucky enough to come back to my home state of Missouri, and I finished out my career, and I retired out of Springfield, Missouri. Out of all my endeavors and moving around and seeing 20 plus countries and living and being some of the neatest places in the world and skiing the Alps and everything, I decided with all that, I couldn't pick a better home than St. James, Missouri. Ozark Mule Days used to be called Boys Town Mule Show back in the day, and then when I took it over in 2005, we renamed it to Ozark Mule Days. We never thought it would grow like it is today. People say, "Well, what do you do with a mule or a mule show?" We do everything that you can do with a horse. We have barrel racing, we have poles, we have bending, we have English, we have dressage, we have reining, we have fun classes. There's things that we do on mules that you can't imagine they'd even think of. Until you come to a mule show, you'd have never believed that there was anything from a $250 sale barn mule all the way up to a mule that would cost you $50,000. About 5 years ago, me and my wife decided that we were going to take the mule and we were going to present it out there to trainers and say, "Hey, enter this competition and take a mule that was just halter broke only, very little training, and do a 150-day competition to finish him." So what started out to be just a dream has evolved into last year at our makeover, we represented 34 states. We had 365 mules from across the country. What I do is I don't charge these trainers anything. They just came, we choose the best that's out there that we think is going to fit in the process of training that mule. They get to keep it for 150 days. After that 150 days, they bring it back to Springfield, Missouri, and you get to show your skill set of what you've done with that mule. We've had cowboy mounted shooting, we've had roping, we've had people that had reining mules, we had people that had trail mules, obstacles, stuff jumping through fire, everything that you can believe what they could do with that mule. I have a trailer sponsor that gives us a $27,000 trailer that we give away to the trainer. We've got a mule company out in Oklahoma, Rockin' Old Mules, that gives us about a $5,000 colt to the winner. They get a buckle from PFI. We raise money, but the big thing is we auction the mules off. And when we're done auctioning them, and I say sold, I look at that trainer and I say, "Do you want to keep your mule or do you want the money?" So out of the makeover, our average price last year on a mule that needed a second chance in life. Some of them were at the killer market, some of them were pasture pets, and we took them and put them with some of the best trainers. And last year we averaged $8,600 per mule, with the highest one bringing $18,500. We have a lot of good mules that we purchase and that we get donated to makeover. I mean, they're great breeding, some of the best jacks and some of the best mares that are out there in the United States. But we also have some really good mules that we actually found in kill pens. They were mules that were, for whatever reason, born, didn't have a life ahead of them, and they were in sale barns, and they were probably going to Canada or to Mexico or somewhere to become a kill mule. So when I talk about some of these mules were destined to be killed, they were. They were just, that's what they were. But we saw a potential in them that they were a really good animal, and that if putting with the right time and the right trainer, they could make something awesome. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to marry up a mule that needs a second chance in life to a trainer who wants to showcase their skills and what they can do with an equine. With me traveling around with the Army, everybody always knew I was a mule guy. Well, about 8 years ago, Congress was looking for a role model mule, and my general knew that I raised mules, and being from Missouri, they thought, man, let's put Les's name in the hat. So they did. Well, they interviewed me, they came and looked at what all I'd done with my mule, the service, the community, trying to teach people, taking him to colleges, taking him to troubled kids, putting him on the radio station, everything I could do to promote the mule. Well, the grace have it that my mule was picked, and General Frank Grass from Congress came down to Missouri, flew down. This is him. I took him indoors, and this was him when the 4-star general, that's the Joint Chief Staff, General Frank Grass, and that's a drawing of him. And that picture now hangs in the Pentagon. And we inducted my mule into the United States Army, and they gave him the rank of corporal. So I've got Corporal Cool Hand Luke. He's been with me my entire military career. When they asked me, they said, do you care if we promote him? And I said, no, as long as he doesn't outrank me. He's a pretty special mule in our family. They say the real boot life, what is it? And I don't show very many people this, but this is my real boot life. The real boot life of what won the West. I mean, I'm going to show you a couple guns that right here. You're looking at an 1873 Winchester, and I've got a couple of them. I've got one in brass, which was the high end back in the day, and I've got one in standard. But the boot life, part of the boot life, is this right here. I collect the West. I collect the history. Right there, it may not be in text, but it's in metal and it's in steel, and that thing right there can tell you the entire story of what won the West. I was that kid that got an F. This is no lie, I swear. I got an F in gym because I wouldn't dress out. I literally am the guy, if there is a person out there that has wore boots his entire life other than running PT with the United States Army, it was me. Whether I wore these old cowboy boots or whether I wear a pair of combat boots, that's what I've done my entire life. I always tell people, it's not what it means to me, but what does it mean to my peers to look at me by me wearing these boots? And I mean that by saying, these boots are who I am. This is who I grew up to be. This is who I've been my entire life, of putting this boot on my left foot, on my right foot, and being that person, that cowboy, that farmer, that husband, that soldier, living the American dream of doing what I can and what I do on this great farm and developing a great place for me and my wife to retire for the rest of life. And if it wasn't for me putting on that boot as a little kid and having that dream of being that cowboy or being that farmer, I don't know what else I would do today. So in my regards, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for this boot.
Every pair of boots has a story to tell, and we'll be right back.
At PFI and every pair of boots we sell, there's a story to tell. Our story begins in Springfield, Missouri, with America's greatest Western store and home of BootDaddy. For over 40 years, millions of pairs of boots, tack, clothing, and more. We've been helping folks to the real boot life. Next time you're traveling the heart of this great country, pay us a visit or shop at BootDaddy.com.
There's only one PFI, home of BootDaddy, and I'm not kidding.
Rhonda Vincent went from growing up in a tiny town in northern Missouri, immersed in a family musical heritage, to hitting the road and performing all over the world as the Queen of Bluegrass.
I'm kind of a crusader for bluegrass music. Because the image of bluegrass music a lot of times is that it was barefoot, missing teeth. I love that it's your everyday people that love the music. Like it's the heartbeat of America that is listening to bluegrass music. It's like Sunday go to meeting clothes. We dress up, we have respect for what we do, and I think the people that are there, they're just everyday people, and they love the music. And because of the authenticity, I think that's something that we bring in bluegrass and acoustic music. There's an authenticity that we have, I think, that draws people to that. Well, I'm Rhonda Vincent. I'm a lifelong resident of Missouri from a very tiny town in northern Missouri. It's called Greentop, Missouri. It's at the very top of Missouri in the heart of America. And I'm a performer. I grew up in a musical family, traced back 5 generations of the Vincent family, and started singing when I was 3. When I was 5, we had a television show, radio show, made our first recording. So I grew up in a very intense life of music. It was a way of life. My dad picked me up from school each day, and he and Grandpa and I would sing and play until dinner, and after dinner, friends came over and we played till bedtime. So there was a nightly music party, if you will, which was all great because I thought everybody was at their house doing the same thing. And it wasn't until, I guess as a teenager, I found out that Barb Wheeler and Tommy Parsons were at the skating rink. And I was stuck home with my family playing music. I am very grateful and very thankful. They prepared me for what I do now. One of my greatest life lessons I learned at Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. We were staff musicians, and we punched the time clock. And we played from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 5 one-hour shows. And on the weekends, Friday night, we would drive to a bluegrass festival and play Saturday, Sunday, drive back Sunday night. So we are at Silver Dollar City performing. It is pouring down rain, pouring. There is no one listening, no one out in front of us that we can see. And my brother and I are like, the other bands, a lot of them would just sit around and wait till the rain would pass. My dad said, they're paying us to play, and we're gonna play all of our shows. Great training for kids too. So we were performing in the rain to no one. The next week, my dad gets a call from the Grand Ole Opry. Mr. Hal Durham was the general manager, and he said, Mr. Vincent, I'd like to invite you and your family to play on the Grand Ole Opry. He said, last week, when your family was playing in the rain, I was on vacation with my family, and we were around the corner listening. And I learned one of the greatest lessons of my lifetime, that you always do your best because you don't know who's listening. It could be people that we just met from Iowa or wherever they might be in the country. It might be a farmer, or it could be the general manager of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. It was such a close-knit, just a wonderful feeling of having the security of family. And that's a great thing. And my first experience away from my family is in 1985, I did the TV show You Can Be a Star. And Jim Ed Brown from the Grand Ole Opry was the host of that show. And I won my day. I didn't win the week, but I did get a job with Jim Ed Brown from that. And I toured with Jim Ed Brown for 6 months. That became just a new experience. I'm used to being on the road with my mom and dad. It's all for one, one for all. Whatever you do, you can't get fired, your family. What a great learning experience. The very first night I was with Jim Ed, the first performance was on the Grand Ole Opry. He was the host of that segment, as they are. And as soon as he sang his first song and the other artist came on, he turned to me, he goes, and this is my first night in Nashville, my first night with Jim Ed Brown. And he turns to me and he said, you're gonna do the next song. What are you gonna do? They say your knees are knocking. It's like I was just the anxiety for a second, and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna sing on the Grand Ole Opry, a lifelong dream. And so there I was. That was April of 1985. I'm at a crossroads. I'm out of college now, or so to speak. What am I gonna do with my life? Where am I gonna go? I'm married, we have children. And that's when I put a group of friends together, Alan, Joey, and Earl. We were just like playing around the house, having fun. And we did a few festivals, and all of a sudden, it seemed like I was in the right place at the right time. I had never been happier. And it's like, but it seemed too easy, because this is what I had grown up doing. It's like, should I really be doing this? Because this is just life for me. And from that, I ended up signing with Rounder Records. And people say, how did you get the title, the Queen of Bluegrass? Well, the Wall Street Journal did a review on my first Rounder album. That was January of 2000. Wall Street Journal reviewed this, and it said, Rhonda Vincent, the new Queen of Bluegrass. We love traveling the country and visiting different places. And I think our favorite is actually being outside and playing. And I'll tell people, it's like, I love playing outside, and I love being in a different place every day. You never know what you're gonna discover. I had no idea until we went to Carmel, California, the rocky coastline that we have out there, and the beauty that it is. My driver did not know that you cannot stay overnight in Yellowstone Park. And so we were up in Montana, and he decided to drive in so we could first thing wake up in Yellowstone and see the sights there. He was sitting in his driver's seat when a moose came right up to the window, freaked him out. We went to bed, and all of a sudden the park ranger knocked on the door and said, you cannot stay here. But somehow, our driver's name was Yogi Bear. He allowed us to stay the night. We stayed the night, and it's probably, I could be getting someone in trouble because that was probably a violation, but we stayed all night in Yellowstone Park. But one of the most beautiful places that we've ever visited, you know, in the United States. I love traveling. I sleep the best on the bus as the bus is rolling. Welcome to my home away from home. I spend more time here than probably even at my actual home at the Lake of the Ozarks. I love it here. They call it the Bluegrass Express, or because of the Queen of Bluegrass, some people call it the Queen's Carriage. I love it. I'm most at home, and I sleep the best on the bus. So this is our dining room, our booth, our entertainment area. We watch TV, we have jam sessions, maybe theme nights. They might pick Conway Twitty, you never know. This is where we prepare our food if we're hungry. Everything has a place. Nice little cupboard there. I have this every morning, my favorite. Refrigerator. This is our instrument closet. I won't show you inside, but anyway, it stores the instruments. It's not that exciting. This is where the guys sleep. There are 7 bunks, and I custom designed this because if there was a space, it's like, let's put something in it. So all of the guys have lockers. There's one guy that his bed is made up perfectly every day. Check it out. My kids never kept their room this clean. The rest of them, I can't promise what they're gonna look like. His closet's the same way. He's got a very organized closet. I don't remember which one it is. So some are in disarray, mine included. Bet you didn't expect to find somebody in the shower. Full-size shower. Have you ever shaved your legs going down the road? That's a tough one. This is my area. I do a lot of work here, so I could have had a bed put in, but I wanted to design this so my girls could come sleep with me, and I have a work area here. I have my computer, I can watch TV, a complete stereo system. But I had this designed so I could lay here and sleep, and my girls could lay here. And we could talk and have pajama parties, so when I brought them on the road. So when we're driving down the road, this is my favorite place. The best sleep in the world. We made a stop at Fort Hood in Texas. And now, after we'd performed, I think, 11 days in a row. So my goal, I was gonna lay at the pool all day and soak in the sun, play our show that night. When we arrived early morning, knock on the bus. It's like, hey, we have you scheduled for a visit to the military hospital. They had our schedule for the entire day. And it's like, oh my goodness. Our day started out with a visit to the military hospital. And there was a lady, she had been discharged from the hospital, but she was standing with her bag, waiting, first person that I saw. And I greeted her, and she said, I wanted to thank you for coming to see us. And I was so awestruck by that. It's like, if I've been discharged from the hospital, I'm gonna be out of here. But instead, she had heard I was coming, and she waited for me and just expressed to me how important that was. One soldier, he was badly burned and just out of surgery, and they said, Rhonda Vincent's here, would you like to see her? And he's like, yes. And it's like, I'm out of surgery, I don't want to see anybody normally. But these men and women who are serving our country, they were so appreciative of my visit. I performed that night, and I got back to the hotel. I started to go to sleep, and I sat up, and I grabbed the pen and paper by the bedside, and in just a few minutes, I wrote a song called God Bless the Soldier, and it expresses this life-changing experience for me, knowing and appreciating them and what they give for us. I met a soldier on the base at Fort Hood. I said, how do you do it? He said, there's bad with the good. And no matter how tough it gets, the soldier stands strong, keeping our family flag and country free, righting the wrong. I met a soldier, she was thanking me. At first it was strange to hear, and then I started to see what it meant to have someone appreciate her sacrifice and everything she gives for us, defending our rights. God bless the soldier as they walk the streets. Let them know how much it means to have them keep our country free. When you meet a soldier, stand and salute. Take a moment to show your love for everything that they do. Don't be afraid, give them your praise, for this is the stranger that is willing to give their life for you. God bless the soldier. I live the real boot life. I mean, from growing up in a musical family in northern Missouri in a very modest home that all we knew that we had love of our family, didn't really matter. I didn't know any better that we didn't have a lot because we were loved so very much, and we always had food, we always had anything that we needed. We had the necessities. Well, I grew up in church, and my grandmother's reading the Bible, very influenced. We didn't pray publicly. That was more of a private thing. It wasn't really talked about. It wasn't until I traveled with my daughter Sally, and all of a sudden with the band, she would say, you know what, we need to pray before a meal. She taught me so. It's amazing how your children, years later, you don't even expect that, can teach you so very much, about living. And so it became it's a thing now. If we sit down for a meal, we pray for our meal. We pray for everything. In 2017, we were nominated for a Grammy. And my husband saying, you don't pray for, he said, you pray for good health, you pray for people if they're sick, you don't pray for Grammys. So I talked to my preacher, and I asked him about it, and I said, you know what, Herb says I shouldn't pray for this, but boy, we would sure love to win a Grammy. He goes, you are to pray for everything. So it's like, Lord, please let us win a Grammy, and the next thing we know, guess what? We won the Grammy that year. February 28th of 2020. A lot of people say 2020 is the worst year of their life, it's terrible. Well, for me, it is one of the greatest years of my life, because on February 28th of 2020, I was invited to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry. We stood on the stage, I sang a song that was our latest single called Like I Could, written by my dear Opry friend, Opry sister now, Jeannie Seeley. She walked out on the stage. It was my 215th performance on the Opry. Just so grateful that we got to play the Opry as often as we could. I had kind of, I guess, become at peace. It's like I'm probably never going to be an Opry member, and I'm just thrilled that we have the opportunity to play it as often as we can. And I was floored when Jeannie came out and said, "How would you like to be the next member of the Grand Ole Opry?" I couldn't believe my ears, and in fact, if you see the footage, I said, "Are you serious?" Because I thought, you know, sometimes you think you hear things because you want to hear them and maybe they aren't true. And so I waited for her to tell me, it's like, "Yes, would you like to be a member of the Opry?" I didn't hear your answer. And it's like, "Oh, yes, please, 100%. So I am so thrilled to be, you know, the next member of the Grand Ole Opry. I am historically, the longest time from being invited to the time of which I am targeted to be inducted on February 6th of 2021. Maybe we should just have waited till February 28th of 2021. It would have been a full year, but almost a year from the date. Well, my boots and my music have taken me around the world. I discovered on my very first trip out of the United States, the water was the same, the sky was the same, the grass was the same, but it's the people that make the places special. And I am so blessed to get to travel and see this great nation. So very thankful, and traveling with friends, family, and I love life, and I'm so very blessed, and I'm thankful.
Share your story about the real boot life at BootDaddy.com.
Toe-tapping, heel-stomping like he's on air. Tight blue jeans and a buckle that blings with his name, BootDaddy. Cowboy boots, slip-sliding, hard-working BootDaddy. Handsome guy, little shy. There's only one BootDaddy. He's a boot-scooting, two-stepping, toe-tapping, heel-stomping. He's a boot-scooting, two-stepping, toe-tapping, heel-stomping, only one. He's a boot-scooting, two-stepping, toe-tapping, heel-stomping, only one.
There's only one PFI, home of BootDaddy, and I'm not kidding.
At PFI, and every pair of boots we sell, there's a story to tell. Our story begins in Springfield, Missouri, with America's greatest Western store and home of BootDaddy. For over 40 years and millions of pairs of boots, tack, clothing, and more, we've been helping folks to the real boot life. Next time you're traveling the heart of this great country, pay us a visit or shop at BootDaddy.com.
There's only one PFI, home of BootDaddy, and I'm not kidding. Share your story about the real boot life at BootDaddy.com.